We are now recording and we are now live.
Okay, sir. Whenever you're ready.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I apologize for the delay, some technical difficulties as we've moved from our normal district boardroom to the high school. I'm excited to be here with our superintendent award recipients and their families. And we also just finished a beautiful retirement celebration. So I would like to call this special meeting of the Board of Education to order. The next regular Board of Education meeting is on Tuesday, June 28th at 7:30 p.m. in the Board of Education meeting room. Before I turn it over to Dr. Adley, I did just want to say a big congratulations. Some folks might have stayed, but as you were all coming into the room, we were celebrating the retirees of 10 of our staff and faculty and admin folks throughout our district that combined had over 200 years of service to the district. There were a couple of folks that were retiring after 30, 32, 33, and 38 years. So I think it speaks volumes to the passion and dedication of these teachers, these facilitators, these admins, and staff in general, to their dedication to the school system and to our students. So while some of them may still be here, I'd just like a round of applause for all our retirees. To our staff who spoke so eloquently, these are big, complex schools with lots of people, but the staff spoke so eloquently about each of their teammates that is retiring, and it's just a credit to the family and the community values that are in each of our schools. So thank you to the beautiful words to each of those retirees. Dr. Adley, with that, I will turn it over to you. We are very excited to be here this evening for the Superintendent's Award recipients.
Good evening, and thank you, and congratulations to the recipients, the distinguished students here with us this evening, and to a special welcome to our parents and family members who are joining. Just because for our configuration, I'm just going to come down to this podium. Excuse me. The Superintendent's Award is given annually, and it's given to students who exhibit the district mission statement of exhibiting the love of learning as problem solvers, innovative thinkers, and also as compassionate contributors to the community and greater community. And it's with that we are here this evening to recognize the accomplishments of each of the grade levels at each of the schools, and 2 seniors this evening. And they also embody and represent many, many other students in our school system. But these are the best of the best, and we congratulate them this evening. And we thank you for sharing in the celebration. And if you want to, when your son or daughter is coming up, you're more than welcome to come up and take a quick photograph. So feel free to do that. And with that, I will lead off with the Hindley School, and Carrie Snowden is the principal of Hindley, and who's going to introduce the recipient.
I would like to ask Margaret Buchanan Ward to join me up here at the podium. There you go. Hindley Schools 2022 Superintendent's Award is Margaret Buchanan Ward. Margaret is the third of 3 Ward sisters to earn this honor. It is no surprise that she credits her family for teaching her that thoughtfulness and kindness are the most important qualities in a person. This lesson has very much benefited Hindley School, where Margaret's teachers describe her as respectful, compassionate, genuine, considerate, honest, brave, and loving. In addition, Margaret takes her schoolwork seriously. She is dedicated, enthusiastic, and tenacious. She works hard to learn and to contribute to the learning of her peers. In comments about Margaret receiving this award, a theme emerged. Over and over, the adults at the Hindley community referred to Margaret as caring, whether she is at home with her family, at school with her peers, or at her church with her community. Margaret shows how much she cares. Here are some of their words. Margaret has always been the first person to jump up and help a friend. She is a person who sees the good in people and situations and comes to school each day being the best version of herself. She stands out as one of the most compassionate, kind, and inclusive students I have ever met. Margaret makes an effort to get to know everyone she talks to, even adults. She will ask thoughtful questions and wait for a response, showing that she actually cares. She continuously clears a path for herself and others. She rises above pettiness and adversity. She is a confident, polite, and trustworthy person. She looks out for and cares for others in a way that not many other students can do. Margaret is always quick to say hello, quick to share a smile with all, and quick to include others. We are very proud to have Margaret Buchanan Ward represent Henley School as this year's Superintendent's Award recipient.
Good evening. I'm Paula Blakely. I'm the principal at Home School. And it is my pleasure to announce that Ava Morley has been selected by her peers and the staff at Home School for this award. During her 6 years at Holmes, Ava has gained the respect and admiration of our school community, and she was selected for this award as she demonstrates a true passion for learning, strong critical and creative thinking skills, notable integrity, and a drive to help others. Both at school and at home, Ava regularly demonstrates a true love of learning each and every day. Whatever the content may be, Ava immerses herself fully, not because she's focused on getting a good grade or receiving some type of recognition, but because she's curious and wants to deepen her understanding of the world around her. As she noted in her essay for staff, "When I wake up, before I go to bed or before dinner, you can usually find me reading a book. I really enjoy absorbing the information that it contains." Our staff have noticed that in addition to learning for her own sake, Ava also loves to share what she learns and often engages her friends in wonderful conversations or debates about a variety of topics and ideas. Beyond simply acquiring knowledge, Ava is also a critical thinker and creative problem solver who applies what she knows to make connections, explain different phenomena, and draw conclusions. As she absorbs her surroundings, she finds inspiration all around her, whether through creative writing, developing an argument for a debate, or building wonderful structures out of found materials. Ava loves to find ways to apply her knowledge and let her imagination soar. Ava contributes to the world with integrity and purpose beyond herself. She is an empathetic and selfless community member, someone who is dependable and concerned for the well-being of others. She truly embodies our homeschool promise. She's safe, respectful, responsible, kind, and positive. Her strong moral principles guide her to do the right thing. Ava goes out of her way to take care of others and to make the world a better place. To quote her essay once again, Ava wrote, "I often spend time with the children in my neighborhood. I hang out with them so they won't be alone and talk to them when they are having a bad day. I help them like a sister would." Ava truly embodies the idea that kindness, curiosity, honesty, hard work, and taking care of others are critical to being a good person. It is for these reasons that her peers and the homeschool staff have selected her as this year's recipient of the Superintendent's Award. Congratulations to Ava, her parents, Lynn and Steve, and her brothers, Hunter and Jack.
Congratulations to Reed Sedlock for being selected as this year's Superintendent Award recipient from Oxbridge School. Reed was assuredly selected by his peers, our faculty and staff, for consistently exhibiting the qualities of creative thinking, a true love of learning, and most importantly, character and kindness. Reed is thoroughly respected by his classmates and teachers. He's known to be a great collaborator with his classmates and a consistent help to all. Reed started his educational experience in kindergarten at Oxbridge and described it as a second home. In his remarks to our faculty and staff, he took time specifically to name the teachers and staff who helped him achieve, pushed him to grow and feel confident in his ability to continue to take risks and learn. Reed is a truly well-rounded young man. He's an excellent student athlete, compassionate community member who's participated and led a variety of pro-social and environmentally conscious causes. Reed, along with his friends and family, have organized efforts to stamp out hunger in the community, care for animals in need, and rally for racial justice, just to name a few. On a personal note, I've had the exceptional fortune of being part of the amazing Sedlock boys, Reed, Charlie, Tate, and their educational journey over the years. And Reed's recognition as award recipient tonight justly caps the Sedlock family legacy of excellence at Oxbridge. Congratulations to you. The entire school community recognizes just how Reed's gifts have been lovingly nurtured by his incredible parents, Dan and Greg, who are here this evening. They've been a powerful guiding force that has aptly challenged Reed to grow in his personal abilities within the spirit of service to others. Thank you for the opportunity to recognize Reed this evening. He now joins the proud lineage of previous Superintendent Award recipients and will no doubt continue to offer his gifts to the middle school and beyond. Congratulations, Reed.
Tonight, I am so happy to have the opportunity to speak about Royal's Student Council President and Superintendent Award recipient, Will Moore. Will is an extraordinary kid in many ways. He's incredibly bright, hardworking, and determined in his schoolwork. However, while those are all great things, just saying those things doesn't really explain why Will is so extraordinary. When I asked her about him, Will's fifth grade teacher, Mrs. Swift, who's here, said, Will is someone his friends and teachers can always count on. He is someone who will do the right thing even when no one is watching. He's someone who will treat others with respect and dignity while listening to their feelings and concerns without judgment. He is someone whose enthusiasm for learning is limitless, and these traits are at the core of who Will is and why we are so proud of him. At Royal, our student nominees each make a video for the staff explaining why they believe they deserve this award after being nominated by their peers. Instead of talking about his personal qualities, which are many, Will instead chose to speak about what he learned from each of his teachers during his time at Royal. The values of Royal School from Mrs. Keating in first grade, the importance of kindness and friendship from Miss Haynes in second grade, problem solving and resilience from Mrs. Dragata in third grade, the value of community from Mrs. Vetty in fourth grade, and leadership skills from Mrs. Swift in fifth grade. Will, I can say with confidence that you embody each of these lessons and values that you learned from your teachers at Royal School. You are truly one of a kind, and I could not be more proud than to present you as Royal Superintendent Award recipient this year. Congratulations.
Good evening, members of the board and Dr. Adley. Tokenique School is excited to introduce our Superintendent's Award recipient, Jacques Clarion. He is a valuable member of our school community and the embodiment of the district's mission. Jacques is a dedicated student, citizen, and soccer player. He's a lifelong learner who uses the lessons he has learned from the soccer pitch to guide his decisions and actions off the field. He has been part of the student council since the 3rd grade, where he started a series of student-led staff interviews to help other students learn more about the staff in the building. Recently, Jacques was chosen as the captain of our safety squad. Jacques goes out of his way to befriend students at recess who are alone. He works hard every day to model expected behaviors in class and makes himself available to help other students when they need it, whether that be academically or socially. Jacques, the entire Tokenique community is so proud of who you have become, and we look forward to what the future holds for you. Congratulations on receiving this award.
Good evening. I'm Tom McMorrin, the interim principal at Middlesex Middle School. Interim is not a good enough term. It has been for me a wonderful 6 weeks, a joyous time to be with you and your students. I have the great delight and privilege to introduce you to Caroline Hendrickson, who is, in the stories we've heard so far, taking the next step from elementary through middle school and exemplifying the qualities that the Superintendent Award seeks. Caroline, if I might have just one moment, in my previous work, I was the superintendent in Easton, Reading, and Region 9. And we worked with our middle school leadership teams to define the vision we had of our ideal student. And my principals came very excited one day and said, we found a concept that we think exemplifies what we're looking for at Helen Keller Middle School in Easton. It's an African term called Ubuntu. And what it means is, I am because we are. I prosper because we as a community prosper. Where I grow, we grow all together. And for all the work we did on that, gee, if I had only had you here to be the exemplar of that work. This is a fine scholar. Her teachers say of her, she learns for the love of learning and the grades come with it. We know that you and your family, that your deep ethical commitment to the well-being of others flows from your first and best teachers, your parents. And you bring to the school a commitment to see all kids flourish as you do. Members of the board, I'd like to say here is the best of the class of 2026, but I know Caroline will say one of the best. I am because we are. She's a member of our diversity, equity, and inclusion project. And in the 6 weeks we've overlapped, we've met multiple times with her drive being, how can I be a better member of this community? And I'd say, I don't know how you could be a better one. We want you to be a very public one. And Mrs. Dunn, we're sending you many fine students. And this scholar next to me exemplifies the best of what we have to offer. I take great pleasure and pride in being able to say to you, here is Caroline Hendrickson. So that I just heard someone in the front say, gosh, all that, and she's a beauty too. Yes, that's,
Good evening, and may I have Trip Lyons and Lexi Dansker to come forward, please? Should we let ladies go first? Lexi Dansker is an incredibly compassionate, outgoing, intelligent, and mature young woman. She is a natural leader, both in and out of the classroom, and she possesses a keen awareness of the needs of others that is rare among her peers. Lexi is committed to her school community and gives of herself in every endeavor with a smile that lightens up the room. Lexi is unwavering when she sets a goal for herself. She works tenaciously for what she wants to accomplish and fiercely defends what she believes in. Lexi is a leader who is dedicated to creating a school climate in which all students share a sense of belonging. She is president and founder of the Perfectly Imperfect Club, which challenges the ideals of perfection that often diminish confidence and self-esteem. She is unstoppable force for good, and she earns the love and respect of her peers and teachers as a result of this generous spirit. Lexi is the quintessential teammate on the track and cross-country teams. She is a committed and inquisitive student in the classroom, and her heart touches all with whom she comes into contact. Lexi has been recognized for this award by her school community because of who she is and who she is destined to become. We are so proud of you, Lexi, and Tulane University will surely be a better place because of your contributions. Trip Lyons is an extraordinary young person whose resilience, intelligence, and positive outlook light the way for others. Nothing stands in Trip's way, and he does not allow any barrier to limit his experiences. He is a steadfast voice when he sees injustice and has an abounding compassion for others. He is a fierce and loyal friend, and this has earned him rock star status. Faculty and peers alike admire his strength, his tenacity, his humor, and his innate curiosity. He follows his interests with passion and can be found leading Model UN as president or being recognized as best delegate at the Yale Model Congress Convention. Trip has managed our basketball and baseball teams and embodies blue wave super fandom. He has been known to express strong opinions about a ref's decision and has, on occasion, turned this principal's attention to change.org. Sports, politics, and international relations inspire his imagination, and he delights in the analysis, debate, and connection they provide in his classrooms with teachers and classmates. Trip is truly beloved at DHS, and if I had to describe the most important reason for this admiration, it is because he takes such great joy in the happiness of others. It is a rare trait, Trip, and it is a gift you give freely. You will be missed in the halls and the classrooms, on the diamond, and on the courts of DHS. How fortunate Fairfield University is to count you among the class of 2026. Congratulations, we're so proud of you.
So we're at the high school and we're going to take advantage of it just for one more photograph. If I could ask the recipients, give your certificate to your mom, your dad, or someone beside you and come up and we'll take a class photo. And if someone would take a photograph for me, I would appreciate it.
Well, thank you. Thank you all. Congratulations again. A phenomenal group of young folks. Makes me excited to see some of the future leaders of the world and those folks that are going to also volunteer in community service and maybe sit up here on the Board of Ed one day. So congratulations to all of you. We welcome you to stay for a Board of Ed meeting. And I believe there's also still some food and beverages outside. So thank you. Food usually clears a room, right? I also wish you all a peaceful, restful summer with family and friends, and thank you for a great school year. Thank you all. We'll move on to the chairperson's report. I'll be brief. I want to thank John and Olivia. John is staying, which we're excited about for another year. But Olivia Punichel, thank you so much for your contribution and for being one of the two first student representatives on the Board of Ed. Very exciting. Congratulations. I'm not sure of your schedule. We do have one more board meeting. If you're available, would love to see you. But I wanted to say thank you. You're off to the University of Richmond. So much luck and success. And also congratulate you. I had the pleasure of seeing Olivia last Friday at the YWCA Women and Young People of Distinction Awards ceremony. And she was one of the winners. So congratulations on that. You represent Darien and the Darien High School community so well. Congratulations and thank you.
Thank you.
I want to, while people are listening, we move into a busy week with stepping up ceremonies and graduation and all kind of activities. So thank you for a lot of challenges during the year that we all worked through. It's exciting to come to this time of year. It's sad, but exciting to celebrate retirements. It's so exciting to celebrate awards and those recipients of the rewards for all the hard work they've done. It really shows what a true community school system we have, from the elementary schools on up to Middlesex and the high school. We all should continue to be proud of the staff, the teachers, the parents, and the students for all the hard work they do in the classroom, on this theater stage, like they did this evening outside from a music and a chorus standpoint, and our athletics and all the clubs that support our students. We truly do have an incredible group of students in our school system, and thanks to the parents behind them. I love the phrase that someone this evening, first and best of our teachers are your parents, but then the hard work and dedication and years of service that our teachers put in and our administrators to teaching and educating our children. So thank you for all of that. And I wish everyone a happy, restful, and family-filled summer. I know summer used to be some downtime when I was a kid, but I think it's gotten busier than ever with summertime, but please get some time to enjoy some downtime. Also, I know on the agenda, we have a security update. I want to thank folks that have reached out to board members to talk about security and their concerns, their ideas, and their thoughts. We welcome those, continue to provide those. We did go into executive session at a special meeting and did kind of an annual discussion, which we always do with the chief of police. Our schools are safe. We spend a lot of time and we do a lot of investment in our schools around security. It is an ongoing dialogue. We work in a great partnership with the police department here in Darien. And while we can never get into the specifics around security, in my 8 years on the board, it is a continued daily focus. The superintendents before Dr. Adley and board members before the current board that sits here have always focused on security, what our needs are, what our investments are, and our priority is to keep our children and our staff safe on a regular basis. We can never get into the specifics of it because of the challenging times and challenging people that are out there sometimes. But over the summer, we'll continue to work on security to see what the needs are, what the investment is. And in talking to other town officials, from our first selectman to our head of Board of Finance and our chief of police, we are prepared and ready to do whatever we need to do to continue to stay focused on the investment of on the investment in security for the safety of our schools. So we'll hear more from Dr. Adley's report as we go forward. So with that, Michelle, I will turn it over to public comment.
Good evening. For participants in person, please wait for the chairperson to acknowledge and call each participant to the microphone. For participants via Zoom, please click the raised hand option. For all participants, please state your name and address for the record log. Each participant will have up to 3 minutes to comment.
Okay, Michelle, I will do our usual. We will turn it over to those folks that are in the audience. So if you want to speak, please come up to the podium and your name and your address. Thank you.
Jake Dansker, 11 Hope Drive. On April 23rd, 2021, police officers knocked on my door at 1:28 a.m., informing me that my triplet brother took his life. My best friend, who I shared all my childhood memories with. We first walked together, first talked together, first played together, even shared a womb together. And he was gone in an instant. My life that I had worked so hard to create was instantly stripped from me, shattered to pieces, and replaced with pain. Pain so severe that I didn't want to wake up each morning. It hurts knowing that most of the DHS community now must endure what I went through. It hurts to know that at a moment's notice, these students' lives were stripped from them and forever changed. It hurts to know that some kids at the school are in so much pain that they turn to the only method they know as a means of escape. And it hurts to know that the classes of 2022, 2023, and 2024 have all been affected by suicide within the past year. I find it interesting that young people die in surrounding towns too, but from different circumstances. There's gang violence in Stamford, stabbings in Fairfield, and of course the tragedy that happened to Teddy Balkind in New Canaan. But from Darien, 3 high school students have taken their own lives within 13 months, 2 within 6 weeks. Darien is a high-achieving town. There's a reason we're constantly ranked as one of the best schools in the state, but there's been a culture in Darien where students push their limits year after year. Although this culture is great and causes students to excel in and outside the classroom, it clearly has been demonstrated that it causes detrimental effects to the mental health of our students. My generation is the first to grow up in this instant gratification society. A post or like on social media, text from a friend, or scroll through TikTok sends a dopamine rush to the brain like a drug. We are now instantly rewarded from our actions online, which, if anything, has been increased by the COVID-19 pandemic. Being locked away at home caused most teens to find their gratification and happiness through social media and the internet, causing students to become addicted to a constant flow of dopamine to the brain. Excluding the recent tragedies in the town, students have been going through a difficult time. When depression hits these students, that same rush of dopamine doesn't feel the same, and students lack the coping mechanisms to deal with it. Of course, there's resources available at the high school, but due to the heavy stigma, therapy is seen as the last option, especially for young men. So instead, students turn to the only instant fix that they know. A social change needs to occur in this town. Students need to understand that it is okay to not be okay, and that it is not cowardly, but brave to ask for help. And the only way to spark this change is by implementing curriculum directly into the schools. Suicide destroys not only the lives of those who have passed, but the lives of everyone surrounding them. We need to protect our students and cannot let more kids suffer through the pain that comes from its aftermath. Thank you.
Jake, thank you for speaking this evening.
Patrick Jeffers, 5 Mayflower Road. Early this year, our school is still struggling with COVID-19. We were in and out of online learning, and school is tough for a lot of kids. A lot of things were going on, and personally, I was not in a good place. I was constantly feeling I wasn't enough, and I was overwhelmed with stress and anxiety. I always had a little voice in my head telling me you weren't good enough, you can never be like this, and you're alone. I was struggling. I was in a really dark place. I didn't know how to get out of it. I didn't know who I would turn to for help. I didn't know how I would get help. I was too scared to ask for help. I didn't know how to do it. I didn't want anyone else to see me like this, so I put on a brave face. But this face grew more and more tiring as the days went by. I did get help. I did find a way out of this. I escaped this prison I created in my own mind, but a lot of students don't have this option. There's so many unknown voices, unheard voices throughout Darien High School that don't know how to escape this, don't know how to get better, how to seek help. They don't know that they're not alone in this world. A lot of this pressure and anxiety is caused by the high achieving standards of Darien High School and Darien as the town and community. Throughout academically, students are pushed to be the very best. There's a high achieving standard at Darien High School where students need to be the very best, get all A's, get the best grades, study hard, and are put down if they aren't the very best. Following this, most students play sports at Darien High School. A lot of these sports run for 3 hours every single day, only taking Sunday off. These students are immediately pushed after a hard and grueling day at school, pushed through sports at Darien High School, pushed to be the very best in the field. They can't have time to enjoy themselves. They're constantly focused and pushed with stress from both sports and academics. Students like this are suffering alone. They don't know how to get rid of the stress and the sadness that goes through them. Students at Darien High School need a way to seek help, need a way to relieve this stress. Through sports and these high achieving standards for both sports and academics, they're put through something that that a lot of people know about, but not many people could do anything about. They need to know that they're not alone. Thank you.
Thank you for speaking this evening.
Francesca Perfumo, 23 Stanton Road. At only 8 years old, my biggest dream was to go to Stanford University. I would study extra math on the weekends to qualify for advanced math in middle school and learn long division at the age of 5. Although small, at a young age, I was qualified as smart or ahead of my peers because of the academic pressure and the strive for success only increased exponentially from there. My life now revolves around being the best at sports, the best at schools, having the most impressive extracurriculars I can squeeze out, and making sure that my parents, teachers, school board, friends, and even myself aren't disappointed by my achievements. Every day at school has become a competition to do better than the person sitting next to me, to prove that I'm smart and ahead just like I was at 5. The pressure to succeed at the school is insane, and now we are all starting to break. Every year since middle school, there have been periods that I just burn out. I'm stretched so thin that it causes me to shatter. This year, building up to winter break, midterms, and even post-midterms were extremely tough times. Assignments, tests, quizzes, and projects were all thrown at me while balancing playing on and off-season sports. Winter break felt like a reset point for going back to school with the idea that there was only 1 week until midterms and 2 months until my next break. School collapsed on top of me. My days involved hours of practice, school, and homework. There was no time for me to breathe, to take a second to focus on myself and my mental health. I asked my coaches for breaks for my mental health, and they responded by reminding me of the near February break and the commitment to my team. I asked my teachers for extensions, and that only put me farther behind. It isn't just stress, it is the overwhelmingness of everything that slowly brings down your mental health. My mental health plummeted, constantly trying to remind myself of the why, and my anxiety was skyrocketing. I never knew when I could take a break, who I could trust to ask for help, or what I could do. I felt alone. I suffered on my own, turning to toxic coping mechanisms rather than taking time to heal. The worst part about this experience was that it wasn't the first time, and I knew it wouldn't be the last. DHS has a toxic need to succeed, making students feel that an A is worth destroying their mental health. Students have a hard time asking for help because they are scared of their teachers, of what their teachers, peers, or parents might say in response, and scared that getting help will jeopardize their success in academics or sports. Teachers and coaches need to be more understanding of the struggles that students face with mental health, understanding that a commitment to themselves and their mental health should be more important than a commitment they've made to you. Students shouldn't have to wait until weekend breaks to feel like they can breathe. The community and relationships built, especially between teachers or coaches and students, need to be attended and approved. Having someone to talk to can be the most effective way of helping one's mental health, yet the trust between these students and guidance counselors and school psychologists do not exist. Guidance counselors have become a place about colleges, post-secondary planning, or your schedule rather than your mental health, which is where we need it most. These days, these guidance counselors and school psychologists are always booked, or students are unaware of the services provided by our school. Awareness and trust are things we need to tie back into the school, which can be accomplished through changing curriculums of other classes such as advisory or health. No matter how we approach the situation, if something doesn't change for the better of our students, the problem will not go away. Thank you.
Thank you for coming up and speaking.
Emma Coyle, 7 Shadbush Lane. In first grade, everyone began talking about the IDEA program for the gifted and talented students. In second grade, I was pulled out for IDEA testing. In third, fourth, and fifth grade, I felt like a failure because I never had the math scores to get in, but I was grouped in with all the IDEA kids for classwork. In elementary school, I felt like I had already failed because I wasn't the best. While they went off to do IDEA projects during class, I was alone, doing my word study activities designed for a group by myself. I read books alone in book groups and checked my math homework myself. I did group work alone for 3 years. By fifth grade, I had already learned to equate my academic performance to my self-worth. I didn't get into the highest math course in sixth grade, and I resented myself. Darian taught me to believe something was wrong with me since I wasn't the best. In sixth grade, I began to doubt myself and struggle with depressive thoughts because I wasn't succeeding. I was only average. I was 13 years old and scared by my own mind. I had no idea what was wrong with me or who to turn to. Anything less than perfection meant I had failed as a student and failed as a daughter. In seventh grade, my thoughts only got worse. No one had any idea that I was struggling to wake up every single morning. We had health class, but no information on suicidal thoughts, thoughts of self-harm, healthy coping mechanisms, or who to reach out to if you were struggling. We had no mental health education in elementary school and surface level education in middle school. I thought I was alone and broken because no one talked about depression or anxiety, and I turned to harmful ways to cope. As a junior, I have taken only one 300 level class in my 3 years at DHS. I still struggle with depressive thoughts, and I still struggle with myself. I have pushed myself far beyond where any person should, relying on unsustainable and unhealthy methods to meet Darian's expectations of success. I hyperventilate to the point where I dissociate from myself while doing timed activities because I'm so anxious about the result that I can't focus on the actual assignment. I feel pathetic because I can't do what's expected of me in this town. Most, if not all, students feel alone and isolated by mental health struggles here. We need to provide students with safe places to be vulnerable with people they trust, such as creating a walk-in mental health space in all our schools where students can talk with an expert whenever they need, in groups or one-on-one. Most, if not all, students at DHS struggle with motivation, anxiety, and feeling unworthy when they realize they aren't meeting Darian's standard of success. We need to limit the amount of AP and honors classes students can take so they don't overwork themselves to the point of mental collapse. Most, if not all, students feel unprepared to deal with intrusive thoughts in a healthy way. We need to strengthen middle and high school health courses to teach healthy coping mechanisms and how to handle depressive and anxious thoughts. And we need to implement elementary school education. We need to start young. All 4 of us are here speaking to you today as students who are struggling, students who are grieving, and students who are desperate for change. We are asking you to take action, and we are asking you to provide more support to students who are suffering in silence. Thank you.
Emma, thank you. I want to thank all four of you for coming up and speaking this evening. Thank you very much.
Good evening, John Dunn, 175 Raymond. As a member of the district's DEI committee, I wanted to share a few of my personal observations with the board tonight. I've truly enjoyed getting to know so many of the wonderful members who are involved. The students have been a stellar example of the quality of our schools. They are so bright, articulate, brave, and just simply real wonderful kids. Also, Chris's husband, phenomenal baker. I think it's important to comment on the overall objectives of our committee. After 5 months, 5 meetings, and 15 hours, we have produced a 2-sentence equity statement. Think about that math for a moment. Given the mental health issues facing our older students, the prolonged effects of COVID learning loss, and the concerns over physical safety, is this really the best use of time and resources for our students, teachers, administrators, and parents? We will be reconvening in the fall as a committee to continue our equity audit. However, it seems that the vast majority of the committee has no formal training in this area, with many lacking backgrounds in education. The bulk of material we have been provided has been snapshots of data with no context or background. At our last meeting, we finally received our first set of historical data. Given these obstacles, how are we expected to successfully complete this task? And if it took us 5 months to craft a 2-sentence equity statement, how long will a full equity audit take? A concern this winter voiced by approximately 1,000 Darien community members was that the experience of California-based consultant Ken Shelton was not aligned with our small New England town. After seeing Mr. Shelton present at multiple meetings, he has done nothing, in my view, to disprove this concern. While he frequently provides anecdotes about large urban schools in California and his life in California, I have never once heard him specifically reference anything related to Darien or what he has learned from engaging with members of our community. At best, his presentations could be described as generic. The I in DEI stands for inclusion, yet Mr. Sheldon, our DEI consultant, has actually blocked multiple parent members of our DEI committee from his social media accounts that he uses to promote his consulting work. How is this inclusive? And when questioned about this, Mr. Sheldon became very defensive, providing a litany of reasons that varied in honesty. I believe our town deserves better and would request that the board urge the administration to no longer waive the bid proposal process for Mr. Sheldon and put the DEI consultant hiring through the proper vetting and bidding process. Thank you very much.
Thank you for speaking this evening. Michelle, we'll move over to Zoom.
There are no raised hands at this time.
Okay, we'll have public comment at the end. Thank you. We'll move on to the superintendent's report.
Thank you, and thank you for the young people who spoke this evening. Our students, I think, have most of our updates because there's been a lot of activities that have been going on and they continue to go on at this particular point. I'll just mention, obviously, that there's a lot of stepping up the ceremonies, moving up ceremonies, and we look forward to celebrating the graduation of our students. We have had 3 workshops for elementary, middle school, and high school parents around supporting families and students in these challenging times on a number of topics. Congratulations to both our athletes and our performing arts students for their very successful seasons. And I'll pick up on a wee comment that was made by Mrs. Best in terms of our art performers at the Halo Awards and the Sodom Awards. There was a lot of recognitions, but I also want to point out that John got a significant recognition at that particular award for Artistic Director Award. And so we offer you, John, our congratulations. The Henley and Royal students, the Henley and the Royal Homes Building Committee is underway, and we're going to continue to be meeting throughout the summer. And Mr. McCammon will probably update on that. And as we turn the corner here over the weekend and then the next week, we'll be doing some of the moving. A lot of moving at Ox Ridge is ready to go, and Mr. Lynch has had that organized and ready to set up, and that we're in good place for that. The P&Z application, they were considering doing June 28th as a meeting time for public hearing, but we have a board meeting on that particular evening, so I'm just waiting to hear back on another date. ESY is up and running in terms of readiness for
June 27th, and summer school is the same. We have 1,261 students currently enrolled, so we seem to be on track there. And again, I'd pass on my congratulations and appreciation to Olivia for her service.
Thank you, Dr. Adley. We'll move on to the student representatives report.
As Dr. Adley said, there's a lot going on at the high school right now, given that it's our last week. We had 3 Darien teams win FCX and 3 Darien teams win states. And we also had at least 1 team come runner up in states, which is pretty good. We had, as a town, a pride celebration at the First Congregational Church this Sunday. I thank those members of the audience and those members of the board that chose to attend. The senior internships concluded today, and we'll have a symposium presentation tomorrow to share with our classmates everything that we were able to do over our internship period. The Fitch Academy graduation is this Thursday. I don't actually remember how many students are graduating from Fitch Academy, but I know that many of them will also be at the graduation this Friday with the students on the main campus. The senior picnic is also this Thursday and our graduation rehearsal, and then senior graduation is this Friday, and that pretty much concludes the senior school year.
In terms of juniors, hello, good. Never know if it's on or not. Junior prom was 2 Fridays ago now. The freshman dance was the day before that. There was great turnout for both of those. I know in particular the junior prom, the food was excellent. I would like to congratulate the theater department at DHS for their amazing performances across the year, but also their recognition at the Halo and the Sondheim Awards. We won 6 awards at the Halos, which is the most any school has ever gotten, which is a testament to our incredible team working spirit and the incredible talent of all the people in the theater. Especially and most importantly, we won Best Chorus for both award shows. Actually, the Sondheims created a new category specifically because of our amazing chorus. And I would like to point out that the Best Chorus Award is, I believe, the most important award because you can win Best Show with a few amazing lead actors, but to win Best Chorus means that every single person has to be putting in an inordinate amount of work, and it has to be incredibly dedicated. It has to be consistently dedicated, because if one person is not working with a team, then the whole ship will go under. So I'm very proud of our achievements there. We are currently, as a DHS school, considering creating a new club called the Mental Health Matters Club, which Liv and I have been in contact with some people about that, about heading it for next year. But we will be reaching out to a few outside organizations to see which can work the best and what model we want to take. But we hope that it will be up and running for the beginning of next year. To come back to Names Day, which happened a few months ago now, the Names Day group is going to meet regularly this upcoming year. And we will make our best efforts to continue to have the names program as a recurring thing. So that this year was the first of several. And the Names Day group's advisor will be Mr. Parton, who is the DHS school social worker. And now this comes to the rather sad part of my announcement, where I have to say that I'm saying goodbye to Livy Panashil, who has been my amazing colleague over the course of these several months. I have only gotten to know Livy really as a colleague and as a friend over the past few months, but she's an amazing person and human being. It was wonderful to work with you, Livy, and I wish you all the best.
Great. Thank you both. Well done. We'll move on to approval of minutes. May I have a motion to approve the following minutes of the special meeting and regular meeting held on May 24th, 2022, the minutes of the special meeting held on June 7th, 2022. Mr. Maroney, second by Mrs. Best. All in favor? That is unanimous. Thank you. We'll move on to board committee reports. Mrs. McCammon.
I'm pleased to report that the Henley Homes and Royal Building Committee received our appropriation from the RTM on Monday, the 6th. That's $26 million for Henley, $24 million for homes, $27.5 million for Royal for a total of $77.5 million. We're very grateful to the community and looking forward to really getting the work done. We've also selected our construction manager, APONG. And so this week and going into next will be really big weeks now that we can sort of focus on I argue, a phase 2 of the project.
Great. Mrs. Parent.
Thank you. The curriculum committee met last Thursday, June 9th. Our two topics of discussion were ruler and the 6 to 12 science curriculum. Julie Droller and Chris Tramberg presented an overview of what ruler is, what has been done this year, and what we look forward to doing next year. Just a quick overview for those of you who have not been able to watch our meeting yet. Ruler is an evidence-based approach to social and emotional learning developed at the Yale Center for Emotional Intelligence. Ruler stands for recognizing emotions in yourself and in others, understanding the causes and the consequences of emotions, labeling emotions accurately, expressing emotions appropriately, and regulating emotions effectively. Ruler program is a pre-K to 12 program that will be applied to students, teachers, parents, and all community members. It's been shown, evidence has shown, the communities where Ruler is incorporated has students that are less anxious and depressed, more emotionally developed with fewer attention problems, and teachers are more engaged, supportive, and effective. Classrooms and schools have more positive climates, certainly all good things, especially in light of what we hear repeatedly from our students. Teachers in Darien were trained in Ruler this year, and the program will roll out to students in the upcoming school year, as will some parent education. Ruler does not replace anything currently in the district, but it is in addition to what is already in place. After that, Christian Dockham presented on the 6 to 12 science curriculum. The science department continues to adjust and enhance the curriculum to align to new generation science standards. Mr. Dockham talked to the department's tutor-centered pedagogy and the learning progression as students move through MMS and onto DHS. The science department will shift their units into EduPlanet 21 this summer, and they will continue to make sure that the scope and sequence of the units and classes are as effective as can be. We do not have any more meetings until the next school year. So.
Thank you. Any other building board committee reports? There is a Oxbridge Building Committee meeting this Thursday at 10. We continue to be on track. A lot will be going on once school ends in terms of moving, and I believe the date for starting deconstruction or demolition of the old Oxford School starts on or about June 27th. If anyone has an emotional attachment to go in and say hi or say goodbye. I know they're planning all kind of end of year celebrations around that school. And I know I see Katie Loveland here in the audience on the building committee. She has, outlined some stuff that we need to do working with the district, the administration, and the community as we go into starting a new school and a new elementary school, but still on a construction site. But anyone that's toured the school or been up there, it's an exciting process. It has been. It's hard to imagine over 2.5 years ago, we were looking at drawings and we'll be moving kids into a school this September. So stay tuned for more on that. Good. We will move on to appointment of Director of Facilities, Dr. Adley.
Yes, and please. I'm pleased to bring before the board this evening, Mr. Kevin Monrett. Kevin would be the replacement for our facilities director, Mr. Michael Lynch, and Kevin has done a tremendous job here since joining us. And he was interviewed by the board, and I'm just pleased to bring him before the board for approval.
Good. May I have a motion to appoint the director of, bear with me just a second here. It does not. May I have a motion to approve the director of facilities as outlined by Dr. Adley, Mrs. McCammon, second by Mr. Maroney. All those in favor? That is unanimous. Thank you, Kevin. Welcome. Thanks for being part of the team over the last year or so, and we look forward to working with you going forward. Congratulations.
You want to say anything?
We'll see if you can be MacGyver too.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for staying this evening too. Appreciate it. We'll move on to presentations and discussions. Darien school status, Dr. Adley.
So I believe this will be the final school status, and The news is, it's good news. The cases have dramatically decreased, both in the town and in the school system. We essentially had about 10 cases in the last week or so in the school system. That's the big picture. That we had a meeting with the Connecticut State Department of Education and Department of Public Health. The discussion was to give guidance about the start of the school year. The guidance that we got was that they are going to have a summer summit and they would be in contact with us after the summer summit. So I don't know what's going to happen in there or what that discussion is going to be. I would hope and think that we'd be putting any other constraints on at this particular point. But I can't really tell about that. So the numbers, I'll just, can I move this, Michelle? Or are you moving it? There's no point me pointing at a screen, I don't think. Okay. Okay. So you can see there 93, the last time we presented this just 2 weeks ago was 174 and the 30 was up to 57. So the cases have been dropping and given where we are nearly after over 2.5 years nearly in terms of in-person learning, I want to recognize our community. I want to recognize the board's leadership and our teachers for maintaining in-person learning and the quality of education that we have provided, from bus drivers to custodians to teachers to administrators and everybody in between. They've done a phenomenal job and I appreciate all of their efforts.
Great, thank you. Any questions or comments around the status? Good, thank you. We'll move on to report on high school college acceptances and awards, internships, profile on high school class of 2022 and post high school plans. So excited to see this, a lot of good information in here. I think we're going to have kind of a overview from a PowerPoint presentation and there's a lot of data in here. And I think it's important that we're not going to go through the data or a lot of it. It's good reading information and shows all the hard work that our students put into their education and going on to the next phase of their education. But we look forward to the update. Anything you wanted to add, Dr. Adley?
First of all, can I just add, Mr. DeMayo, is there a chance to get a wee bit of light on the podium?
Sure.
Oh, sorry, you're right there.
And I think, Dr. Adley, I need to get the clicker from you as well. I need the clicker
You need, oh, with pleasure.
so that I hopefully remember to click.
Just 1 second.
Oh, well, sorry, well.
Somebody thinks they're funny. I'm in the spotlight enough, sir. While we're waiting for that to load, I didn't intend to say anything about this, but I think I'd be remiss if I didn't comment on the unbelievable courage that our students just showed here tonight. I'm often daily inspired by what they have to say, but they were just incredible, and I'm so proud of their courage and the importance of their message. And so just a heartfelt kudos to our students tonight. I'm going to start because I have a couple of introductory remarks and then hopefully that will come up if that's okay.
Sure, that's
Okay,
perfect.
thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening and thank you for the opportunity to take a few minutes to celebrate our Darien High School class of 2022. On behalf of the school counseling department, I would once again like to thank this board, central services, and the DHS administrative team for their ongoing support of the work that we do with kids. This class has endured many challenges and experienced many triumphs. When they began their high school journeys in August of 2018, none of us could have predicted the obstacles, the struggles, and the heartache that they would experience during their time in high school, but all of the amazing and wonderful moments that we would share along the way. Their high school experience has been impacted by a global pandemic, yet they have persevered to rise above it on their way to incredible things. They walked one way in our halls. They wore masks for almost 2 years. They learned remotely. They attended in a hybrid model. They worked so hard as a community to make sure that we could remain in school through a historic health crisis. They were cooperative. They set an example for younger students. They brought a positive attitude under the most unbelievable circumstances. They have shown great resiliency, and they have supported each other in critical ways. They have shown leadership and strength in the most difficult circumstances, and they have had a lot of fun doing it. While I have shared with you the data that we typically present on this evening, and the full report would be available to the public through the Board of Ed materials, tonight I'd like to take a slightly different approach to this presentation and highlight some of this class's amazingness, since these experiences are the most formative. As many know, Darien High School was once again named the #1 high school in Connecticut. While this designation is certainly a reflection of the hard work and talent of our inspiring students, the dedication and commitment of our top-notch staff, and the support of central services, the board, and our community, I believe we are a top high school for so many reasons beyond what scores and rankings say about us. When my daughter, now entering her junior year of college, impossible to believe, began 9th grade, one of the school administrators spoke to a group of parents. She asked us to close our eyes and to reflect on our own high school experiences. I would invite you to do the same now. After about a minute, she said, "I bet none of you were thinking about what you learned in US history." No, not to my history colleagues. You were likely remembering the laughter and the inside jokes, the musical productions, your sports teams, your friends, the pep rallies, prom, your clubs, and your activities. She was right. High school is about so much more than curriculum, test scores, GPAs, or college admissions. It is about memories, experiences that shape us, building relationships, learning more about who we are and who we want to be, finding our voice and developing the skills to be independent and confident adults who will impact our world in a positive way. I think we can all agree that at DHS, we are highly successful in the classroom. When we look at every metric, our kids are just crushing it. However, so much of what matters in high school, in short, happens outside of the classroom. Every day, I have moments of immense pride as I watch our kids and our faculty engaging in all of these other things with such love, commitment, passion, and true Blue Wave spirit. So the class of 2022 is curious. Several of our ASR seniors presented at the Junior Science and Humanities Symposium. Seniors were published in scientific journals, completed research in laboratories amongst some of the best in the field, competed in prestigious competitions, and presented their research at the highest levels. The class of 2022 is creative. To highlight a few of the many accolades, and John shared some tonight as well, we had both silver and gold key art award winners in the class of 2022. A member of the class of 2022 earned a perfect score on their AP 2D art and portfolio design portfolio, one of only approximately 200 students worldwide to do so. Our students are also showing in a number of highly selective and prestigious art shows locally around the state. Senior members of Theater 308, both on the stage and behind the scenes, dazzled us in the Addams Family and Metamorphoses and performed in stunning student productions a few weeks ago. Our seniors lend their musical talents to 7 different school day ensembles and 2 extracurricular ensembles, participate in countless performances at the school, local, state, and national levels. They have played and sang at our games and our pit orchestras, at our musicals, at our special assemblies, and at town events. 37 students in the class of 2022 submitted art, music, or performance portfolios or completed an audition as part of their college application process this year. The class of 2022 are leaders. They have led over 70 clubs and organizations. They have started new clubs, advocated for change, taught us about many important causes, championed the rights of others, baked, danced, gamed, and gardened. They have captained 36 varsity sports. They have coached, encouraged, and cheered for younger students who will soon fill their shoes. The class of 2022 is cultured. 18 seniors were part of the student group that traveled to Spain this spring. 88 seniors have been inducted into 4 World Language Honor Societies, and 131 of our seniors have earned the seal of biliteracy in 6 different languages, including Spanish, French, Latin, Mandarin, Chinese, Dutch, and Korean. The class of 2022 is community-minded. Giving back to the community is of great importance to our students through Post 53, service-based clubs and organizations, community groups and agencies, fundraisers, turkey collections, books and clothing drives, and special events such as our trunk or treat. Our seniors were constantly engaged in efforts to impact their community and their world. The class of 2022 is quick on their feet. They recently had an impressive 24th place showing at Quiz Bowl Nationals and excelled at the DECA International Competition in Atlanta this spring. They have also rocked several Model UN competitions. And the class of 2022 is fun. Two of my favorites this year, really illustrating their joyful and spontaneous spirit, was when they brought their books to school in anything but a backpack. I think the students who chose the kayak, the grill, and the microwave may still be rethinking those choices, but it was really fun all the same. They even planned a senior barbecue during the school day, complete with steaks and all the trimmings. My invitation got lost in the mail, but I heard it was an amazing afternoon. To close out their senior high school journeys, approximately 340 of our seniors have been participating in our senior internship program for almost 4 weeks. Here you can see some of the many sites where our students are interning. Seniors have both a faculty member and a site supervisor. They are required to complete 30 hours a week of work at their sites, and they write weekly journals that they share about their experiences with their faculty member. They will present their experiences at the internship symposium tomorrow. The sites just keep going. It's pretty amazing, the partnership we have with so many in the community. Here are some of our favorite quotes from students and mentors. And as you can see, this program is meaningful and impactful for both students and sites. So what is next for this amazing group of young adults? Nearly 94% will be pursuing higher education next year. In addition, 10 students will be taking gap years, including focus on travel and service, and a few others will be heading to work and/or career training school. Finally, these are the intended majors of our class. We are confident that whether they are pursuing an academic endeavor, taking a gap year, or heading to work, this class is sure to make an impact on the world. Congratulations to the class of 2022. We are grateful to have been a part of your journey, and we can't wait to see what you will do next. We love you. We are so proud of you. We will miss you. Come visit. I'm happy to take any board questions.
Great. Thank you for that. I'll open it up to board questions or comments. There's a lot of good data in here. It will be up on the website for people to look at, but I think the hard work is evident in the data, and thank you for that presentation.
Agreed. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Yes, Dr. Adley.
Yeah, I just want to recognize, the light just went down on you. There you go. I just want to recognize Megan for her steadfast leadership, for extending a caring and helping hand to the kids, for your department work. It has been both compassionate, needed, exhausting, and everything in between. I just don't have enough words to express my appreciation and actually the board's appreciation, the community's appreciation for being there. And it's completely evident how much everybody in this high school cares about our students, and in fact across the district. And that doesn't happen without your leadership, Megan. So I very much appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Adley.
Thank you. Dr. Adley, we will move on to a update on school security.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'm pleased to share publicly some comments about school security and an update, comments that I'm able to share. Certainly the tragic events at Robb Elementary School in Uvalde, Texas, and other events that have been profiled in the media understandably heightens concern around the topic of school security. As the board chair has mentioned, we appreciate the members of our public and community who have reached out with inquiries and suggestions regarding the district's safety plans. I wish to reassure the community that our schools are safe places, and the safety of the children and staff is always a top priority of the Board of Education and administration. Improvements in school safety practices, protocols, personnel, and infrastructure have been made over a period of many years and are reviewed by the Board of Education on an annual basis. The chair recently just mentioned that it was reviewed most recently, our practices and protocols with the police chief in executive session last Tuesday, June 7th. For reassurance, examples of some of the safety practices and protocols in place include annually updated school security and school emergency plans, school security and safety committees, emergency lockdown systems, panic buttons, campus monitors and school resource officers, visitor monitoring, monthly emergency crisis drills with police presence, staff training, secured entrances, and interior and exterior cameras. School safety and security is also supported through the incredible work and close partnership with the Darien Police Department. We maintain a presence in the schools and work closely with the district and school administrators on our plans and our drills. During this time of national and local discourse on school security, the district has and will continue to review and where necessary revise its practices and protocols. A security audit that was scheduled, I think it was for March 14th or so, just a day or two when we left for the pandemic, will be scheduled again for the fall because it needs to take place also with people in the actual buildings. Thank you to the members of our community for your participation, your contribution to the important dialogue, and for your advocacy for school safety and student safety. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Adley. Any questions or comments from the board? Good. Thank you, Dr. Adley. We'll continue to hear more on that. We'll move on to a mental health and wellness update. Dr. Adley and Dr. McCarthy.
Just given the comments we've heard from our young people, it's even more pertinent that we continue to keep this topic alive and on the table. And thus the board has asked for regular updates. And Dr. McCarthy, I appreciate your leadership, and actually Mrs. Dunn's right behind you, and all of our principals' leaderships through these difficult times. Dr. McCarthy, thank you for your particular guidance as you've coordinated our responses and assisted our administration at the high school. And it's with that I turn it over to you for you to provide an update to the board. The board does have a memorandum as part of your packet, but Dr. McCarthy will hit the highlights.
Sure. Thank you. Dr. McCarthy. Mr. Jeff, do you have a spotlight we can use again? Spotlight for Ms. Dr. McCarthy. There we go. Just what you need.
The red light.
Just what you need. Thank
I
you.
get a 10 from this. Good evening, Board of Education members and members of the cabinet, community members who are here tonight. I'm here actually tonight to report on our current efforts to support students, staff, and the community as one representative of a larger group, as I've already shared, administrators who are here with me tonight, our mental health staff, various community agencies and state agencies who have helped supporting us through advisement and actually being on the ground as well. The first thing I want to talk about tonight is how we've supported our students. So beginning on Saturday, May 21st, our crisis team mobilized here at Darien High School to facilitate communications to families and the community to request the support of our mental health crisis intervention services and mobile crisis intervention services. You may know them as 211, and to develop plans for the school schedule in response to the community needs. Our efforts included provided crisis counseling from Darien High School mental health staff, from the mental health crisis intervention services and mobile crisis intervention services, and from family centers. In addition, the Town of Darien Human Services Department offered crisis counseling and family support in coordination with the Town of New Canaan Human Services Department. The Connecticut State Department of Education provided consultation to us immediately to plan out how Monday and Tuesday would operate for school. We planned a delayed opening of school on Monday to allow for our response teams to work with groups of teachers to prepare them for how to facilitate their classes through the day and allow them an opportunity to ask questions of us and learn language that they can use to address their students with.
Dr. McCarthy, could you just see if you could adjust that mic a little bit?
Sure. Is this better?
Yeah, thank you.
A little taller than our previous speakers.
Right. Thank you.
The administration worked with staff to adjust student assessments and final exams in the hopes to reduce stress during this time. During the day on Monday, May 23rd and on Tuesday, May 24th, small groups of students were invited by grade to meet with their school counselors and other support staff in 8 locations around the building. The post-vention guidance from mental health experts continues to emphasize that in the immediate wake, that is the first 4 months of a death by suicide cluster, the school and community should focus efforts on developing awareness of the signs of mental health concerns while providing both counseling support and information about where counseling supports can be accessed. We have continued to work closely on emphasizing that effort. We've also recognized that the cumulative effect of responding to multiple losses and trauma is very difficult for staff. All staff have been provided resources and access to counseling support through the DHS mental health support teams, the town of Darien, and the employee assistance program. Staff who themselves are responsible for providing crisis counseling here in the buildings to students and staff have been provided immediate, no-cost counseling support off-site with our community partners. Over the past 3 weeks, the Darien High School crisis team has partnered with community resources towards addressing both the immediate needs of students, staff, and families, and considering the long-term needs of our entire community. We continue to be grateful for the many individuals and organizations who have committed their time, expertise, and resources to the DHS community. Our community partners have included the Town of Darien Human Services Department, local agencies like Child Guidance Center of Southern Connecticut, Family Centers, Kids in Crisis, Sasko River Center, Child and Family Guidance Center, the Town of New Canaan Human Services Department, and Silver Hill Hospital. We have also worked closely with state agencies, including the Connecticut State Department of Education, the Connecticut Department of Mental Health and Addiction, and the Department of Children and Families. We've worked together with our community partners and agencies to provide a number of presentations to provide psychoeducation to our families and the community. We presented on recognizing the signs of mental health struggles in our children and supporting bereavement and grief. We presented on mental health, on supporting elementary students and families through challenging times. We've presented a similar presentation to our middle school families. And then most recently yesterday, a presentation was co-sponsored with the Town Human Services Department titled After a Suicide, What Every Parent Should Know. In addition, a new mental health resource repository has been developed on the district website, and each of these presentations is available for parents who are unable to view them. Again, while guidance from mental health professionals continues to promote addressing the immediate needs of students before any significant long-term planning is undertaken, the district has begun partnering with our community stakeholders towards the development of a mental health task force. Multiple meetings have been held with multiple community members and stakeholders toward that end. The first meeting, a district post-vention planning meeting, was held on May 26th, 2022. The purpose of this meeting, which was chaired by the district, was to engage agency partners in the development of post-vention plans that extend beyond the immediate support models in place, and to seek guidance and support from experienced mental health experts on the district's post-vention planning. Attendees include representatives and agency leads from a number of different local and state agencies, along with our Darien High School crisis team members and Darien Central Services Administration. Members from DCF, DEMIS, the Connecticut State Department of Education, Child Guidance of Southern Connecticut, Family Centers, Behavioral Health Child and Family Guidance Center, Child and Family Guidance Center, Middlesex, our elementary school administration, and our Darien High School administration and crisis team members participated in that meeting. A second meeting, a mental health task force planning meeting, was chaired by the Town of Darien Human Services Department on June 1st, 2022. The purpose of this meeting was to broaden the scope of the work being done by the district and its partners to the entire Town of Darien community. As we continue to focus on supporting the immediate needs of our students and our community, these plenary meetings serve important functions of uniting our community response efforts, ensuring consistency in our communications and understanding of post-vention, and sharing resources and expertise. The district will therefore continue to work with the Town of Darien and our respective community partners toward the development and implementation of a mental health task force to address the ongoing and evolving needs of a community that has suffered from the cumulative impact of unthinkable loss this year. Immediately following the end of the school year, the administration will be meeting again with the leads of those state agencies and local agencies who work alongside the Connecticut State Department of Education during crisis post-vention. This timeline was recommended by those agencies to allow immediate efforts to again focus on supporting our students and community. Last, the needs of our community continue to evolve. Students, community, and staff input, like the input from the 4 brave students who spoke tonight, continue to shine light where we may not know there is darkness. And we continue to encourage your communication in any format so we can reflect and address those concerns. Happy to accept any questions.
Thank you, Dr. McCarthy. I'll open up to board questions or comments. This is Mr. Sini.
Thank you for the presentation. One of the things we learned in the first update from you and your team was the syntax of this, or the right order, focus on the immediate needs, but then work on the implementation of foundational programs. It sounds like after the school year and you'll be immediately looking at the foundational programs. What's the timeline over the summer in which the board you might present some of the foundational programs to the board in time for implementation, either later summer or as the school year begins?
Yeah, so it's complicated. The guidance we've gotten has been that sort of 4-month timeline. We're in a unique space because we're heading into summer. So our timeline might look a little different in that during the summer, our efforts might be leaning more on local agencies to help the actual supporting of students, as our staff aren't necessarily going to be present. And that's why I think we can sort of immediately start working on that long-term planning. And we've already set up meetings with our leads at those agencies for the week after graduation. So in terms of reporting back out on the results of those, I think periodically through the summer, we would be happy to.
Mrs. Ackman.
So it would be remiss not to have some at least initial thoughts on some of what we heard in public comment tonight, because I do think as we celebrate so much that our students have done, it really is an immense amount of bravery to get up and admit that, there's areas I'm not succeeding in and I'm not feeling well and I want to be seen and I want to be heard. So, first I'd like to acknowledge, I think, I'll speak for myself as a board member, but how profound those statements are and how much we respect those students who got up publicly and said what I think many students are feeling and often can't find the words to voice. So a big thank you there. What I do think is I want to make sure that people and the public understand that, at least in my understanding and my time being on the board, that mental health is more than just a mental health program. DEI factors into mental health. If you understand including people and equity and differences in people, that can help people feel brave to talk and say, I'm feeling different today, and it's okay. So I applaud our efforts. I hope those continue. I think we should find the best ways for those to continue, but I think that's helpful. And the only piece of this that I want to make sure, and I don't really have a roadmap for this, so Dr. McCarthy and Dr. Adley, that's for you, is that we can ask our teachers to make adjustments and we can ask our schools to make adjustments. But from what I'm hearing is there are pressure points in other areas and pressure messages for coming from other areas. And whether that's at home or on a field or in a classroom, that there is some significant work working together to maybe help give an older generation that didn't have the words to say this and doesn't know the words of how to deal with mental health, language and vocabulary. So that is really a partnering with town and community groups. I think we can do all the work that we can and should in the schools, but if it's not a constant message, I just know it doesn't hit unless kids feel it everywhere they go. You can face a hurdle if you feel like you have a lot of support areas. It can't just be one support area or one teacher. So I'm rambling a little bit because I'm trying to find the right words to say that this has to be an effort. Our kids, we heard from our kids in the fall, we're hearing from our kids now. I don't know what else they can do except really ask us to believe them. And so, I'm prepared to believe them. I'm sure my other board members are. And as you go about this, I just ask that all eyes are on this.
Thank you, Mrs. Ackman.
And I would just add to that the public health intervention, mental health intervention from a system-wide perspective has frameworks that exist and programmatic research-based interventions that exist. But each of those things has to be applied to the system and to the town in a culturally responsive and contextually responsive way, which is why it is necessary to have a representative task force from different stakeholders be able to look at what is out there that people are using, both from prevention and responsive frameworks, and then apply them to what do we have and conduct that type of needs assessment work. And so that's a lot of work, but it does require us to not just purchase a program, it's actually working as a task force together to think about how do we apply that to Darien specifically.
Thank you.
Olivia.
I apologize in advance. This comment is a little bit lengthy, but since this is my last meeting, I want to take kind of my final opportunity to give the student input on this matter. We've heard a lot about counseling being offered to students, and I urge the board to consider the fact that we've had guidance counselors and school counselors in place for a really, really long time, and yet this mental health crisis is still going through, and that's because students don't feel like school counselors and guidance counselors are there to support them in mental health matters. They're there if they have a problem with the teacher or if they want to know what college is right for them. But if they are having a really off day and feel like there's no one there to support them, our school counselors, as much effort as I'm sure they put in, are not a place of comfort for our students because they feel that it's just an extension of the school itself. So my suggestion would be to implement some non-school affiliated counseling in the building where students can feel like they have somewhere to go for counseling that has nothing to do with their academics. We had students here today speaking about their pressure to take AP classes and suggesting that limits be placed on honors and AP classes. Now, I'm not saying that we need a hard limit that caps all students at taking a specific number of classes if they want to take a large number of classes, but we should really consider how much pressure we are putting on kids to overload their plates to their maximum ability just to reach a specific goal. We also had students talk about academics in combination with sports and how much pressure we put on students to be the best on the field and off the field. My junior year of high school, I would have 3-hour softball practices and I would come home, go straight upstairs and sit on the floor doing homework to the point where my parents would have to bring me dinner while I worked because I had that much to do. Decreasing homework loads, giving clarification to coaches, telling them how much pressure they can put on their players and how long practices can run. All of these are steps that can be taken to reduce the pressure put on our students. Now, I do commend the finals plan and the way that the board and the committee for dealing with student mental health approached reducing academic tension at the end of the school year and for finals, but we are about to enter summer and we are about to enter a new school year. Now, I'm assuming that the optional course load is not going to continue into the next school year. So I ask you to consider that this period of reduced academic pressure is temporary. How are you going to continue to implement a reduction of academic pressure in our next school year? And we've heard some about presentations being given to parents and students, and presentations are great. They're informative. They give people information that they need to consider what's going on with their child, but it's not enough to put this information into practice. Parents and students can hear lecture after lecture and not internalize information. We need to send an overall message to students and parents and faculty members that there's going to be an overall change in the way that we approach mental health in this town. Otherwise, the information that we're giving them about how to spot signs of mental health problems in their students, it's not going to be internalized and it's not going to be put into practice because no one else is going to be doing it.
Olivia, in the interest of time, let's hear from John also. Thank
I
you.
was just going to say, actually looking at this little cheat sheet she has, there's a few things that I had also wanted to comment on. One thing in particular, she mentioned AP classes, and as soon as she did that, I was reminded of something from a while ago. I believe in 4th or 5th grade, I was exposed to the issue of limiting AP classes, and I was already planning how I would go about like in 4th grade. I mean, I had no idea what it even meant, but I was planning how I was going to take different classes and what the course would mean. So I do think that there is some some good in at least, because I know limiting it is not always going to be receptive very well, because people will always want to take a lot of classes, and saying no isn't always the thing that will get you the most support. But if there's a way that we can reduce the stigma, especially because I know that there are some people who want to take an EP class but can't take it because it doesn't fit in their schedule. Like without having any sort of thing said or some statement made, like if in a student's mind, the college that they're applying to will see not having taken that AP, regardless of the reason, as kind of a failure to meet some standard. I'm not saying that's the case at all, but that's kind of where the student's mindset is right now, is that if they didn't do it, there's something that they should have been doing, and that maybe that's the reason it didn't get accepted. And so I think that's kind of a larger conversation that needs to take place. And, oh, you deleted it. No. Thank you.
All right, thank you, John. We'll move over here. Mrs. Worm.
Yes, thank you for, sorry, I forgot about the mic. Okay, so I have a few things to say. One, I agree with Mrs. Ackman. We do need a culture shift. Absolutely have to look, we need everybody in town to get on board with this. So I appreciate that. Two, I realize that we're still in crisis mode and we're going to be here for quite a few months. But as I've been asking, and as students have been asking about supports going on at the school, such as Teen Talk or an outside counseling program, which is part of Kids in Crisis, I still would like to see an update on what is currently going on at the school previous to crisis mode. What is the percentage of time our psychologists and our counselors are spending with students, whether it be 504s, IEPs, testing, what have you? What percentage are they spending with regular ed students? What percentage of time are they actually counseling? What is the social worker's job and where do they fit in? What does a day in the life look like for the psychologist, for the school counselor? How much college counseling is going on? We have heard time and time again that these students need someone to be able to walk in and talk to. That is not a guidance counselor. That's going to have the time to listen to them. Kids in Crisis, there's other programs out there, Teen Talk through Kids in Crisis, where they are in the school, but they are not part of the school system. So the students feel more comfortable. New Canaan has them, Westport has them, all of our surrounding towns have them. So I would like to see what's currently going on and what we're going to look at forward.
Sure. Thank you, Mrs. Worm. Mrs. Parent.
I just have a couple more practical questions, not that everything isn't practical, but just specific questions. And I completely agree about the culture shift of the town. This is not just a district problem. This is a town-wide situation. And it's not linear. It's not going to be like, okay, we're doing this for post-lunch and then we're going to do this. And there's no real clear pathway. So we all have to get on board in every part of who we are in this town to do this. Just a couple specific questions. Is there any, has there been any talk about how, if there's a group of children or some students that you may think need an extra touch in, a check-in in the summer, is there a way to do that, whether it's through ESY or somebody reaching out to them through email? I just worry that we're just letting these kids out of this building and out of MMS, and there are not as many eyes on them as they usually would be. And I just worry of people falling through. So is there a way to touch some of those kids? And I'm just curious how many members of the staff have availed themselves of the resources that have been brought to them? Not specific number, but just in general.
Sure. So to the first question, that was one of the immediate tasks of the crisis team that weekend, was identifying specific students, groups, families who we may need to target specifically outside of our typical processes of the small groups that are happening on Monday and Tuesday. So Ms. Emanuelson and her team were on that immediately. Those lists were created that weekend, and that work will continue to the summer for those students and families who require that support if they haven't been connected with an outside resource already. So certainly we have mental health providers available over the summer. Child guidance and family centers have already let us know that they're availing themselves of any supports the district needs through the summer related to crisis or grief counseling. So that piece is definitely underway. In terms of the staff support, that's a little challenging. EAP would be a confidential support structure. There are times where staff members may avail themselves of supports that already exist outside of school and contact their own providers. We do know for the crisis counseling that we set up here in the building was accessed by staff members, and that the separate counseling supports we set up for our own clinicians who are managing a lot of the trauma through nights and weekends of their peers and of the students, that a significant number of those staff members have reached out and set up appointments for that crisis counseling, which is good to hear.
Thank you.
Mrs. Best.
Thank you. Thanks for the update and a lot of great points and questions from everyone. I just wanted to emphasize, we heard it from at least one of our speakers tonight, the importance of focusing on our youngest students and families. It's never too soon for us to start addressing sort of these climate things. Expectations and levels get set at a very early age in this town. So as we move past postvention and start working on things longer term, I think our climate shift is going to have to start young.
Thank you. Mrs. Ackman.
Just real quick, I think I have to put a little bit of a different spin on some of what we're talking about. And respectfully, Libby, I think that I would say I think there are kids who feel very comfortable go to our counselors, and I think our counselors make an immense amount of time for them. I think I don't want to put words in your mouth, but maybe what we're saying is there are kids who need other outlets. We're saying some kids feel really comfortable with our SRO, and some kids feel comfortable with their coaches. So maybe the charge might be, are there other outlets to Mrs. Worms that would help, and or what's the caseload of our psychologists, social workers, and guidance counselors? Because there are kids who are in crisis that really need lots of attention. And I would say in 6 years on the board and 15 years in the district, I think our counselors step up and do that. But they either might need more time to help deal with the current load, or kids might need additional resources. So I've been continually impressed with our guidance department and all that they have juggled, from how many applications do I do to I need to sit in your office and do my work. So respectfully, I just want to put a little bit of a different spin than I think our counselors are there. And maybe we need to look at what aid we can give them, given the caseloads they're currently carrying.
Thank you, Mrs. Ackman. I'll just echo that. I mean, I think in my almost 8+ years on the board, I mean, the investment we've made in resources in the school, and I think kids, I know from listening and hearing, a lot of times go to who they're comfortable with. And that could be an SRO, it could be a guidance counselor, it could be a teacher, it could be an assistant principal. And I think we have to continue to make sure, what are the additional resources we need? It's not a one size fits all by any means. And that's what I think the value of what we've invested in, the additional psychologists, the SRO that's up there, but what additional resources we may need. And does it have a clinic type feel, so that it has some disconnect from the school or the day-to-day that they feel, they're disconnecting, have that conversation. I wrote down, I hear such great things about the chill zone. I don't know, do we need a safe zone? And where does that need to be? So the one thing I would say is I'd love to understand, and I hope you've got the support of the board in terms of resources. You've got the support of the community. Jill and myself attended the task force meeting. We'll be at the next meeting. It was a worthwhile meeting. The right people were there. The right conversation was had. The right people are guiding us in terms of what we should be doing now and over the summer and into the new school year. But you all have day jobs, and those day jobs have proven so critical in terms of your knowledge and your skill set to helping your students. But what else do we need? And I just ask you to continue to think from a resource standpoint, what else you need. What do you need over the summer to get the work done? I do agree with some of the comments here. The opening of school cannot look the same as it has looked in the past. You say the summer is here, great. It's a short time frame at the end of the day. Like, what work, the board is committed, whatever meetings we need to have, but what do you need to help get that work done? What comes to my mind is there's work to be done on the handbook. There's work to be done on commitment meetings. There's work to be done to the points here of time spent on homework, time spent at sports. I brought to Dr. Adley's attention a week or so ago, I got a couple of phone calls on practices being held on Memorial Day. I'm sorry, there should be no practices for sports on Memorial Day. It's just disrespectful. And is all the practice and all the time and energy that's put into it, there's a point in time where there just needs to be a down day and a family day. So it's stuff like that that we really need to think about, and we really need to make sure that we've got all those components and that we're looking at this holistically. Is there stuff that needs to be done in the handbook? But, you know, to me, those first couple of days of school, meet and greet, again, there should be a fun component. There should be a curiosity, but there should be, how are we educating them about what we're going to do over the course of the year and how we're going to be there to help them? And maybe the theme is, it's okay not to be okay. Someone brought up to me, we need more placards. Do we need something on the student ID that says something like, it's okay not to be okay? Like, be a friend, be curious, be a leader. Like, we should think about stuff like that. Mrs. Parent?
I think another thing that we need to think about, and I'm curious how this is going to change going forward, is so much of what we're hearing from our students is that there's a lack of connection, whether that's connection to peers, whether it's connection to staff, whether it's connection to the greater community, and how do we help develop connection as a community? And I think you may be surrounded by 100 people, but you still can be lonely, and you still can feel isolated, and you still can feel alone. So how do we empower people to look for connection when they do not feel connected? How do you seek that as well? And I know that there's no 3-sentence answer that you can give me, but I think that's a huge part of it, is having everybody feel connected together and knowing that everybody has each other's backs will help.
I think too, Dr. McCarthy and the administration, I think the one key ingredient here and hearing from those students is, how do we make sure we have the parents in this conversation? You know, and what does that look like? What do they need as parents? But I think that's the key ingredient here that has to be part of the conversation continuously. You know, how do we make sure the parents feel they're part of this, that we're giving them any resources that they may need also? Mrs. McCammon.
I have a lot of thoughts, but I want to honor the fact that we are in a post-vention period and the focus does need to be the wraparound. So I'll start there. In the meantime, I'd like to say thank you for the use of frameworks. Thank you for the cross-community cooperation. I think that's critical. We know that this is a community-wide issue and it cannot be done by the schools alone, and we must do this together. So thank you for being out and in front of talking with town staff, with local agencies, and with folks who have expertise in this area, because this is, not something that schools, as I understand it, this is not something your first thing guidance counselors necessarily, for example, are prepared for. This is something we have to learn to respond to as a district, and we have prioritized it. We'll continue to do so. I do think the work going forward is of strategic importance. I'd like to see this work outlined in a holistic way when the time is right. So thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. McCann. Olivia.
I just wanted to say 2 more things before I conclude. I think Mrs. Hockman put it wonderfully, that the resources that we do currently offer are being utilized, and when they're utilized, they respond well. But it is a fairly popular statement that some students don't feel like there are people in the school that they can talk to. So my recommendation is just that we use everything that we can to make sure that every student feels like they have a resource present to them. And I apologize for my comments tonight sound harsh. It's just, as a student myself for a few more days, I do have a strong response when I see my peers in crisis. The one thing that I really, really urge the board to do moving forward is integrate your student input. Students have been coming to the Board of Ed all year telling you what they feel that we need more of, more DEI, more mental health support, less academic pressure, whatever it is. And they've been pleading with you, with administration, with everyone to just listen to us and give us what we feel we need. And putting John and I on this board was an amazing first step into integrating student voices, but a continuation needs to go on. We need more student committees, whatever we need specific to mental health, specific to diversity, whatever it is we can do to make sure that students who feel like there's something missing from their experience in the high school, in the middle school, in the elementary school, that there's someone listening that might be able to provide it for them. And while I think it's great that we're the #1 high school in the state, I would much rather attend a high school ranked much lower and not have students coming before the board talking about their struggles with self-harm and suicide and losing their classmates.
Thank you, Olivia. John?
And if I may, first, I think I'm in an incredible position actually so that I can take part in many of those things. I mentioned in my application to this position actually that I would love to do some of those things. So starting next year, I do hope to create a series of different student committees that I can meet with directly, because I think it will only strengthen the student voice on the board, because having a person on the board to be able to speak directly, it carries a certain level of weight that I think is important. I wanted to just briefly talk about extracurriculars, because I know for some people, it's been kind of mentioned that extracurriculars have not experienced the same level of decrease in stress. And I think that's something that needs to be taken into serious account, because for the people who value those, and for the people whom extracurriculars form a large part of their lives, they have the same level of stress as school does. And even though all the finals were decreased in stress, and if they turn into experiences, those same kind of decreases were not made in, I think, sports, for example. I mean, we still had FCX and CX, and practices were still going on during Memorial Day, for example. And the theater awards still happened, and we still had people going, all weekend to these workshops. So I'm wondering, in the future, if we plan to decrease stress in school, what are we planning to do to decrease the same level of stress across the board in all extracurricular events and activities?
Thank you, John. Any other board questions or comments? Dr. Adley?
Yes, thank you, and thank you for everyone's comments, that they are much appreciated and helpful. I just want to share that you recognize, as the parent just mentioned, that this is a very complex. What works for one student will not necessarily work for another student. We're also taking the things that you're talking about, know that they are under discussion. What does school start like? How do we enter the kids? These are all things that we will take under professional advice in terms of the clinicians. I'm not a clinician. None of us around here, well, most of us are not clinicians, right? We need the advice of clinicians to give us those inputs onto those decisions that we're making, and we're going to continue to take that counsel. I'll also just share with you again the end of this memorandum that talked about we're actually reviewing changes or additions in administrative personnel or staffing structures, training and staff development, and system-wide mental health support needs. So just reassuring you that it can't be done overnight, but those things are the things that we are doing, and that we'll bring back to the board for comment and hopefully support on or otherwise. But know that the things that are mentioned at this table tonight are all on this groups of people's minds, and discussions are unfolding regarding those. Everybody has been given suggestions, and I really appreciate the suggestions, not necessarily here at the table, but from parents and everyone else. And those are appreciated. Some of them are hard to process sometimes, just collectively. But no, we're hearing people's voices, and we're taking those things under consideration and under advisement from the professional groups of people that we're working with. So we will bring back recommendations regarding these three areas to the board.
Thank you, Dr. Adley. Any other board questions, comments? Thank you. Thank you to follow up on Dr. Adley. Thank you for all the conversation around that. This will be a regular conversation at board meetings. We will move on to discussion of proposed dates and times for high school professional learning communities for 2022-2023 school year. Dr. Adley?
Yeah, this is consciously separated from item H, which is the 23-24 calendar, because this is for the 22-23 calendar. So these days are 10 days, which is what we had this particular year. And these are 2-hour delayed arrivals, and they've been very helpful for the NEAS accreditation. The pre-visit, which will be in October, was rescheduled given what we were dealing with at the schools. It will also continue to be helpful in once that pre-visit takes place, there's work to be done thereafter. So I'm asking consideration to continue with the 10 2-hour delays. It allows the staff additional time to do work on the strategic plan, the vision of the graduate, curriculum work, but also in preparation for the accreditation visit. And I'll also say it allows the kids a wee bit more rest, which is not a bad thing at this particular point. The 2-hour delay also allows for a bus run that follows the elementary run that gets the kids into school. So,
Thank you, Dr. Adley. Any questions or comments on this? Mrs. McCammon?
We got one question, Dr. Adley, about looking at the middle of the week. I know parents are accustomed to a Friday, but looking at the middle of the week also for sleep reasons. Do you have any comment on that?
yeah, I think just at this time that there's the idea that there's additional. I think there's the request was it may be more beneficial for rest for students in the middle of the week. I think that still has to be resolved per se because Friday has been working at the moment. I think separating it, the community is used to Friday at this point. I think this needs, if it's going to be looked at under a late start time arrival or some other big topic, then I think it will be all looked at together at one go.
Okay.
Thank you. We'll move on to update on district strategic plan. Dr. Adley and Dr. Tranberg.
Good evening, everyone. This is a rather long memo, so I will pick some highlights. This is the culminating report for the year of our year 1 goals. I'm incredibly proud of the work that we accomplished for our year 1. And I'll start with 1A. A big goal in that area was defining our teaching and learning principles. We had a collaborative action team that formed this year, and together that group surveyed the staff. We held focus groups. We did a book study, and one of the exciting approaches that we took, which was rather innovative, one of our focus group questions, and you can think about what your answer is right now, was who was your favorite teacher, or who was the best teacher you ever had? And right away, everyone that participated, it just in a second, it just popped into their head. And then we talked about the why behind that, and that was a big driver in how we formed. We answered 2 questions: teachers teach best when, and students learn best when. And that is the path we took, and we're really proud of where that is. And access to the draft of that is linked for your perusal. We're also getting ready to launch our EduPlanet 21 curriculum warehousing that will offer some consistency and a template that we can share. So we will have thousands and thousands of pages to upload over the next few years, but we're very much looking forward to that work. Under 1C, I'll point out, as we're piloting co-teaching next year in 5th grade for literacy, Kristen O'Reilly led some wonderful job embedded professional development with the help of teachers who are successfully co-teaching at the middle school and high school. And it was just a wonderful day. I got to see some of that in action. So they learned about the different structures, and then they spent time observing co-teaching and having an opportunity to work with those teachers. And that was great to see. In goal area 2, we have the SEL committee that is formed, and thank you, Mrs. Parent, for sharing the overview of Ruler. The one thing, just in connection to our last conversation, one of the most important things we can do as adults is model the behaviors that we're expecting in children, and labeling and talking about our own emotions is very challenging. So whenever we can do that and model that for children, it's very important, and one of the, I'll say, easiest and accessible ways to open the doors and start those conversations, as challenging as it can be for us. Under goal 2B, the DEI team had 4 meetings since this last update. And yes, 15 hours is what we had together. Very proud of what was accomplished in 15 hours. Yes, it's a 2-sentence statement, but when you have 60 different people who think very differently and feel differently, coming up with 2 sentences that people mostly agree with is a success story in my book. We also have our focus questions to continue with our equity audit next year. So I'm proud of that work and looking forward to that committee continuing the good work that they're doing. John touched on the ADL, so I will not reach that. But as you may have noticed when you came in, the GSA here and at the middle school has decorated the school with flags for Pride Month. Shout out to the students that did that, because I felt seen and represented, and I've never been in a high school and felt that way before. So I'm very proud of you that you made me feel welcome in the place that I work. So big shout out there. 3A, the district values. The vision of the graduate work is well underway. You'll see a lot more of that next year because it will be embedded in the work that's happening with NEASC. And also to show the connection to the teaching and learning and curriculum. All of those competencies of the vision of the graduate are embedded in EduPlanet 21. So from K to 12, we can identify the areas of curriculum that are preparing students to achieve those competencies by the time of graduation. Under 4B, I know this sounds little, but it's huge because it takes a lot of time. Just creating some electronic systems to process the workflow of getting materials done. And that was a goal that was baked in the plan. So we are excited about that. I will skip ahead to another thing in goal area 4 that Ms. Sion and I are excited about. We are looking at a teacher leadership academy next year for aspiring teachers who would like to potentially be school leaders one day. So we're developing that. And also a new onboarding program for administrators. So we're providing guided supports for them throughout the year as we welcome new administrators into the organization. A couple of updates that are on the website that are helpful to know. This is under 5A. We have the mental health resources that are on the website. And we also have a landing page for our transition to BYOD to support that communication. I will skip over goal area 6. Ms. McCammon touched on my highlight relating to the building projects. I'll just add a little qualitative. I had an opportunity to be in that meeting. It was just so exciting to see all of the wonderful things that are coming for our buildings in the years ahead. So just so much to be proud of, and I'm excited to see what's coming there. A shout out to the robotics group. I know we were in year 1 of our grant. And we had our own hosted intramural competition with our 3-8 teams, and our high school team came and judged that competition. So that was great to see, and many young children very, very happy about robots for sure. So I'm glad to entertain any questions.
Thank you, Dr. Tranberg. There's a lot of detail here, but I like the recap on the page. So I'll open up real quick to any board questions or comments. Mrs. McCammon.
I queued it up in the last conversation, but I think the work of mental health, I use the word strategic on purpose. This is our most important work that we're prioritizing in the district, and it's a pretty comprehensive look. So I hope that, you know, we'll identify it in not only in a holistic way, but in a strategic way, what our work looks like. And you know, I think a lot of it dovetails very directly with the work we're doing, and I'd love to see it highlighted.
Yes, and in that spirit, we did apply for the next, not sure if it's officially a pilot of the SEL screener for the state. And so we're waiting to hear, number 1, if we're accepted, and number 2, if we are accepted, is that the best path forward for us? So more to come on that.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, thank you, Dr. Tranberg. We'll move on.
Sorry.
Yep,
You
go
didn't see
ahead.
me. I'm sorry
Mr.
about that. Chris, given the comments we heard tonight on the DEI committee, can you maybe just give us an update of what's next and when that equity audit and how you're implementing that committee's work and into board work and policy?
So in the equity audit, there are different groups related to student achievement, program participation, professional capacity, and climate. And each of those groups developed a focus question. So we looked at data for the past, I'll say heavily in the past 3 meetings to develop that question. Next year is about doing a deeper dive to try to figure out what's the root cause of that. And then they'll actually make recommendations for consideration to the administration and to the board. And then we'll see if those are viable and take those steps. And then it becomes an iterative process. So we take some actions, we see if there's progress. So that's the equity audit piece. The other piece that's really important is members of the team are building their own capacity to have difficult conversations. We've only had 5 meetings, so we just started putting our toe in the water with the topic of bias. And when you say bias itself, that causes some challenges. But it took us 3 meetings for us to even feel like we had enough readiness in the room to have that conversation. So yes, it is slow. It's intentionally that way so we can bring people along and accept that there is divergent thinking, and that's okay. But what do we agree upon? And that's the success of all of our students. And no matter who is in the room, what conversation we're having, that is clear. And the other thing is we have permission to disagree. We can these conversations get uncomfortable, and when they do, that's okay. Sometimes we have to take time to have a conversation we didn't plan to have, and that's okay too. And so we've experienced some of that, and we'll continue to moving forward, I anticipate. But I think we are making progress that's on pace with what I've experienced and seen before.
So the equity audit, you're envisioning by year end 2022 or?
We will have clear recommendations, I would say, at the midpoint next year, as long as we can get started again right away in September.
It's the same group of people, right, next year?
Right now, everyone received a feedback form to let me know what worked for them, what didn't work, so I can reassess some of the structures there. And members have the opportunity to say, no, thank you, I'm done. And if there's space there, we're going to fill those spaces. We're a bit underrepresented with teachers, so we would like to get more teachers, and we're definitely underrepresented with racial diversity. So that's a goal too, as we move forward.
Thank you, Dr. Tranberg. Good. We'll move on to first reading and discussion on proposed revisions to Board of Education policies, Series 5000, students, 5225, drug and alcohol use by students, 5230, illegal substances and tobacco policy for student athletes and students participating in extracurricular activities, 5255, search and seizure, 5265, confidentiality and access to education records, 5325, student privacy, 5270, pledge of allegiance and flag displays, 5235, conduct on school buses, 5225, management plan and guidelines for students with food allergies and or glycogen storage disease, 5340, physical examinations and screenings, 5320, health services and requirements, 5330, health records. This is a first reading and discussion. I will turn it over to Mrs. Achman and Ms. Sion.
Sorry, this is a first reading, so we're happy to take board questions, but the policy committee met. Most of these are either legal updates or just making sure that our current practices, which already conform with state law, match the state statute. There was one question around the glycol policy and students with diabetes. The language in it read a certain way to seem to imply that children with diabetes had other learning disabilities, rather than recognizing that needing insulin at school is a recognized need that we're able to assist. So there will be language edits there, and they are in there. So that reads more clearly. We just wanted to be very clear that we were talking about the fact, which we already do. Some school districts have had a problem with that it's not seen. The need to receive insulin for diabetes is not seen as an assisted service within schools. We do. So the language was unclear, and we will clean that up for the board's review. It's in there. The edit is in there. So I think Mrs. Best, you had the question, but please read it. That's the one area where we went back and forth, and we really asked the lawyers to just make the language a little tighter and read more clearly. Just as a side note, and we announced at the meeting, in order to stay on track with our policy audit, we will try to meet over the summer. Policy committee may do that by Zoom. We're all entitled to do it. But we're trying to keep this process underway. And we've done a lot of great work. So thank you to the committee. I mean, we've done more work getting through some of these policies than we've been able to ever before. So I appreciate the committee and all their work. And this is a first read. We'll bring it back to the board next meeting.
Thank you, Mrs. Achman. Any board questions or comments? Thank you. We move on. Further discussion and action on the 2023-2024 school calendar. Dr. Adley.
Just as presented, Mr. Chairman. Haven't any feedback on it, so.
Questions or comments on the 2023-2024 proposed calendar? May I have a motion to approve the 2023-2024 school calendar as presented? Mrs. Best, second by Mr. Maroney. All those in favor? Thank you. That is unanimous. We have a 2023-2024 school calendar. We'll move on to action items, personnel items, appointments, resignations, and retirements. Ms. Sion.
So the hiring is beginning a little earlier this year than usual. Other districts are seeking out some of our people who are moving to other districts, but we've so far been able to hire. We're running into, and I'm looking at Mrs. Klein right now, because as we go deeper into the pool of candidates, it's getting a little more challenging, but our process remains rigorous. We're not willing to settle in June, and we feel confident that we'll be fully staffed.
Okay, thank you. Questions or comments? May I have a motion to approve the PAR as presented? Mrs. Ackman, second by Mr. Sini, all in favor? Thank you. Move that forward. Michelle, we'll move over to public comment quickly. Are you ready for it?
For participants in person, please wait for the chair to acknowledge you. For participants via Zoom, please raise your hand. All participants, please state your address and you will have up to 3 minutes to comment. Will we
Thank
start with in person?
Yes, right here. Thank you.
Hello, Julie Punishville, 23 Fitch Avenue. I just wanted to, when I was listening to you speak about the task force and stakeholders, I noticed I didn't hear any mention of students or parents that are a part of the stakeholders. I feel like when we feel these brave students come up and speak, and when Livy and John speak, there can sometimes be a disconnect in what the clinicians are saying and the programs and the experts are saying and what the students are receiving. And I thought they're a very important voice. And I just wanted to reiterate that they are being included in this formal process.
Yeah, thank you for saying that. I will respond quickly to that, and that it is not officially a task force. It's a group of community members meeting. Out of that will come a potential task force, and that will be formed by the guidance of the professionals that are involved in that. So, but thank you for those points. Anyone else in person? Michelle, we'll go to Zoom.
Miss Carolina Magui, you are unmuted and recognized.
Carolina, can you
Hi,
hear us?
everyone. Yes, can you hear me? Yes.
Yes, go ahead. Thank you.
I just wanted to say, I implore you all, my video is on, but I have no light, sorry. I'm in the dark. Implore you all to listen to our kids that have come to talk to you and explain what they're feeling, their life in the high school is for the full year. Since we began this year, kids have come and spoken to you and told you how they feel. So I implore you to please, please, please listen to our kids. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else, Michelle?
There are no more raised hands at this time.
Great. Thank you. Thank you all. May I have a motion to adjourn to executive session for the purpose of discussion of non-affiliated employee salaries pursuant to Connecticut General Statute 1206A. Mrs. McCammon, all those in favor?
Second.
Second, Mrs. Ackman, all those in favor? That is unanimous. Thank you. We will move into executive session.
We're going to go to the chorus room.
Right through there.